Let's get right to that Fox News alert for you. 2 gunmen are dead after opening fire outside Muhammad cartoon exhibit in Garland, Texas.
Get back in the building.
Ooh.
At this hour, an investigation is still underway, but right now we are bringing you closer to the scene of this crime.
Casey Stiegel is live on the ground in Garland, Texas, with the very latest. Casey, Garland is one of the suburbs of Dallas. It's to the north and the east of the city center.
Yeah, it's only about a 20-minute drive, and you mentioned we're now getting closer because police have lifted some of the perimeter, and that has allowed us to get a little bit closer to the scene. In fact, I'm going to hop out of the way and let you take a live look because we are just a few hundred yards from it. Just on the other side of those flashing police lights is the Curtis Colwell Center where this went down, and I can tell you that the bomb squad has been working here throughout the night using a robot to sweep the suspect's vehicle. We've heard a couple of muffled concussions. We don't know if they were detonating something that they found there. A news conference scheduled for later this morning. There was a fear the suspects brought explosives with them to the scene. It was just before 7 o'clock Texas time last night when investigators say 2 men drove into the parking lot of this center shooting. Police returned fire, killing both men. Inside the center was a Draw Muhammad cartoon contest hosted by a group called the American Freedom Defense Initiative. As you know, depicting the Prophet Muhammad in that way is considered blasphemous to many of the Islamic faith, but this was billed as a free speech event. We do not know a thing about the 2 suspects who were killed. Their identities have not been made public. In fact, police have not even officially said if this was random or if the event was specifically targeted. But listen to this. There may be a digital trail, if you will. Before the shooting, a tweet showed up on social media from an account called Sharia is Light, and it said something to the effect of "May Allah accept us as mujahideen," and then the hashtag Texas attack was used. Again, this was before the shooting happened, so this is clearly a key piece of evidence that investigators will be looking at in this very fluid and developing situation, guys.
Indeed. All right. Casey Stiegel there in Garland, Texas. By the way, we should point out the Garland Police Department is going to have a briefing at 10 o'clock Central Time. That is 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Just about 45 minutes ago, Gary Bernson, former CIA guy, who said he has sources there in the police department. He said that the guy showed up with AK-47s with barrel magazines. So, you know, that says a lot. But once again, we'll stick around for the press conference to figure out who they were and what they were up to.
That's right. In the meantime, we're going to bring in Ken Emanuel. He's a grassroots organizer and an eyewitness of last night's event. Ken, we thank you for being with us first here at Fox and Friends.
Thank you.
What can you describe for us? What did you see? What did you hear?
Well, what we saw really was, of course, the event had pretty much wrapped up, and we were kind of finding our way around, and some people were talking with the organizers up near the stage, and then sort of abruptly, security escorted out the organizers off to the side, and it was pretty quick, in a way that it appeared that there was something up, and so I actually found my friends that I was there with and made sure I knew where they were. And then I went up to the front to ask what was going on, and was met by a police officer who told us that we were then on lockdown and we were not going to be allowed to leave, at least for that point, because there was something going on in the parking lot.
Did you feel going in that your security was going to be at risk because of the high-profile event?
Well, it is something that crosses your mind. I mean, if you were to seek to avoid any problems with that, you probably wouldn't go to an event like that. So it's, it's on your mind.
Would you do it again? I mean, considering that this was not just theory, that it did actually happen, that the event did actually occur, was it worth it being there?
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, it was all about taking a stand, and if you're going to stand up and make a statement and stand up, you know that I would do it again. If it was tomorrow, I'd go back.
It was billed as a free speech event, Ken, as you know, where it was a contest. The winner was going to get, I think, $10,000 or $12,000 for the best cartoon of Muhammad, which is provocative in itself. Some have suggested, that's just you're just trying to incite people people. It went too far. What do you say to those critics?
Well, I think that, a lot of the folks that are involved in this had no interest at all or any concern about depicting Muhammad until it became a thing, until it became a really big issue with respect to free speech. And when you're going to threaten to kill people, then it's incumbent on the rest of us to stand up and say, okay, well, now we have to do this to show that we're not going to be silenced. The fellow that won is actually a former Muslim who has been very outspoken and very brave.
Indeed. Did you hear, we had Gary Burnson on earlier who said that there was a possibility that the guy showed up with AK-47s. You haven't heard from anybody in law enforcement or anybody who was at that event the nature of the arms these guys showed up with before they were started shooting at that cop outside and then were killed themselves.
I have heard that there were. I heard last night that they had AK-47 type rifles. I don't know if they were actually.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what we've heard too. Real quick, I heard that the price of the ticket, they built $50 into the price of every ticket to hire this outside security. Was that correct? Did you know about it?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Did they build 50? How much did you pay for tickets?
Oh well, I didn't. It was $50 for the tickets, the normal ticket price.
Okay. Were you one of the individuals there who began singing patriotic songs, God Bless America? And if so, why was that important to sing those songs right there?
Yes, well, we began the singing. We had heard that there was at that time we heard it was a police officer. It turns out it was not a police officer, but he was a security officer, and we actually prayed for his safety. And we wanted to speak up and kind of show solidarity with the police officers that were there, as well as together show solidarity with one another. And so that's when the prayers and the singing began.
Yeah,
and I was singing, yes.
I'm sure, Ken, over the next day or so, people are going to be critical that the school district allowed this particular building. It's not a school per se, but I believe it is on school property to be used for this event. What's your message to those critics who are going to say, they shouldn't have had it there in the first place?
Well, this arose out of a situation a few months ago where the school district actually allowed the same room, actually, and same facility to be used for a group that was actually seeking to silence criticism of the Prophet Muhammad. So they could decide they're not going to do anything, but they need to be even-handed about it.
Sure.
And so they had that event. They would need to allow this event.
And that's why they decided to have it there back in January, and then there was a little controversy, but it went off last night with a hitch. All right. Ken Emanuel, who was there last night in Garland, Texas, thank you very much for joining us today from our Dallas newsroom.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. This is very significant because remember what happened with Paris with the newspaper who came out and they were doing cartoons that they thought Islamic extremism was a bad thing. And
Charlie Hebdo.
Charlie Hebdo magazine, and they would put these provocative cartoons out there. And there was a reaction within the Islamic extremist community. And both those assailants are now dead, thankfully, but they had to be gunned down after a few days of drama. This was a few minutes of drama. And one of the people who was the headliners at this event was Geert Wilders. And he is a guy that spoke up. He says, I have nothing against Muslims. I have a problem with Islam and the Quran and the Islamic extremism, which he thinks is poisoning Holland and Europe. Yep. He has to have full-time security wherever he goes, but that was his message yesterday. Violence has found him. What I find most compelling is who those two guys who are now dead and how rich their background is with terror ties.
Yeah, Governor Abbott actually releasing a statement. This is a crime that was quickly ended thanks to the swift action by the Garland law enforcement. Our thoughts and prayers remain with all those affected, calling this a senseless crime.
Pamela Geller, who did organize this event last night after the event in January, is going to be, there she is last night in Garland. She's going to be joining us about 10 or 15 minutes from right now. I know we said she'd be at the top of the hour, but we've had some logistical problems. She'll be with us very shortly. In the meantime, it is